You said that you were a captain in the Israeli military army. That is amazing. Israeli military intelligence, apologies.
Yes.
So what was it like making the ranks to captain? Because I'm aware of, every Israeli needs to spend 1 year, correct? 1 year in the military? No?
No, men 3 years.
Men 3 years, okay.
Females 2 years.
Okay.
It changed over the years, a couple of months more or less, but it's around that time.
Yeah. Let's talk tails. My guest today is an outstanding Marketing Leadership Award winner who spent 25 years in roles such as Director of Marketing, VP of Marketing, Chief Marketing Officer, and Chief Operating Officer in corporate America. Before that, he served as a captain in the Israeli military intelligence, holds a bachelor's degree and an MBA from Binghamton University in New York, as well as a doctorate in business administration from California Pacific University, and is the founder of Fractional CMO LLC, a revolutionary approach to strategizing, planning, and implementing marketing efforts for small and mid-sized businesses. He has helped companies transition from obscurity to prominence, launch new products, and achieve market dominance. This is someone who I truly appreciate so very much. So thank you for being here, Dr. Duke Merhavy. How are you doing today?
Good, Taylor. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. So tell me the tale that got you originally into marketing. I don't think little kids grow up and say, I'm going to be a marketer one day when I grow up.
You're almost right. So since I was a kid, I was interested in marketing. I didn't know it was marketing. I was mostly making comments to my parents. I remember that as a kid about commercials that I heard on the radio. Oh, why did they say this? Oh, they could say this. So as it happens with a lot of people, I associated marketing or advertising only with advertising with marketing. So I was always very interested in that. So I started my career, my professional career, doing sales jobs, and I enjoyed it. I learned a lot from it, and I think for every marketing person, it is important to do some sales so they can see what's happening at the front line. But then I decided to pursue marketing education, so I got my bachelor's and MBA, and then after a few years later, I did the PhD as well. Always been interested in marketing. I think it's fascinating. It deals with business, it deals with humans, it deals with psychology. Mm-hmm. So it was very attractive for me.
That's excellent. And, I'm sure 25 plus years, because 25 years in corporate America and then many years with your own business, what are some of the biggest switches you've seen in terms of marketing, whether it's the technology or the way we're marketing to people?
So yes, marketing is dynamic, and the tools that we have to pursue marketing are changing and evolving over time, from being mostly manual or direct, face-to-face type stuff. Nowadays, obviously, everything is mostly digital. Mm-hmm. But the principles don't change. Mm-hmm. What's behind it, what you need to do, and what you need to think about, and how to think about people and the way they purchase, the principles, the basics have not changed. So anybody who took a marketing class 101, you have the 4 P's of marketing, the product, promotion, place, price. None of these has changed. They're still there. How you use them changes over time, and it's still changing. Now the big buzzword is the AI. Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to be, are you using AI? Or, I'm using AI for this, and I'm using AI for that. Yes, but it's a tool. It does not replace our brains. It does not replace the principles and the understanding of marketing. So to answer your question, what has changed? Mostly the tools.
Yes. And the tools are going to always change. I think that's definitely, it comes with technology. And so AI, as you mentioned, is really the buzzword. It's everywhere. You can't go throughout your day without seeing the phrase AI somewhere. Right. What are your thoughts of AI and the future of AI in terms of using it as a tool for marketing?
All right. Well, I don't want to be a party pooper, but I think that it is a buzzword. The true term buzzword is is correct for this. Because right now it's on everybody's mind and everybody wants to do something that's AI. And even if you're, I don't know, making rice, you can say, well, I'm using AI to make it better.
Yes.
It is a tool, it is a buzzword. And I think personally, I believe that eventually it will be incorporated into all of our gadgets and our tools and will not be isolated and say, well, I have a browser, but I also have an AI. It's going to be all in one. In fact, even now, when you go to Google something, they tell you was done with the help of AI. Mm-hmm. So I think it's all going to come and be part of the tools that we're using. But it's good. It's good that it's there. It's going to get better. Right now, it's hit or miss. We are utilizing AI for different things. And on occasion, we look back and say, it's not accurate. Yes. That's not true. But I mean, I can give you an example if you want. So we're working with one of our attorney clients, mm-hmm. and we wanted to write an article about the first licensed attorney in the United States.
Okay.
Let's see what.
That's a great trivia question.
Yeah. What's there? What can we learn about this person? Mm-hmm. What this person did? And went to ChatGPT and asked the question about the first licensed attorney in the United States. Mm-hmm. And it came back with a woman's picture and name from the 1800s. This is great. Not only it's the first attorney, it's the first female attorney.
That's awesome.
That's going to be a great story. So I took it to my client and I said, what do you think? Should we develop this and build a story, a blog or a story around it? And he and his assistant looked at it and says, nah, it's not correct. So what do you mean it's not correct? I asked ChatGPT. Uh-huh. It's not correct. So using their information and their tools, they found who it was. It was a man. Okay. It was somebody else. So I got angry. I went back to the office and I asked ChatGPT, why did you tell me this? And ChatGPT actually apologized and said, I'm sorry, I was focusing on a female first attorney. I said, I've never asked that. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're right. We apologize. Which was funny. But I wonder how many other questions or other pieces of information that we grab from AI tools, whatever they are inaccurate.
And run with it as facts. Yes.
I guess it is still in its infancy and we have to be careful and we have to take everything that comes from them with a grain of salt. Yeah. But it's a tool.
Exactly. It's a tool that can help, but you do have to use your own brain just like when you use any tool.
Exactly. And what you said is exactly true because a lot of people think that it's a replacement for our brain or a replacement for an employee. Mm-hmm. It's not. It's a tool to be more efficient, perhaps, a tool to save us some time. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah. So tell me the tale behind the name of your business, Fractional CMO. And tell me, what made you choose red as one of your brand colors?
All right. Interesting questions. So 10 years ago, I was considering starting my own business because I saw two things happening in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. One, there were many small to medium-sized businesses. And I know people use the term small to medium-sized business to determine all kinds of things. But I'm talking about 5 to 50 to 100 employees or so, even though the true federal definition goes beyond that in terms of size. We're not consistently or effectively utilizing marketing. And there were good reasons for that. The reasons were mostly cost and other resources, people, time, and so on. At the same time, the world has changed in terms of availability of technology to make it possible to pursue marketing without having the costs associated with it.
Mm-hmm. The cost to entry has with social media and so forth.
Correct. Yeah. So that's when video conferencing was starting to take off. Obviously, everybody was having smartphones and good internet broadband connection. All of these kind of made things a little bit easier. But for a lot of small, medium-sized businesses, it was still not clear that these things can help them do marketing in a professional way. And I always thought that even small, medium-sized businesses deserve the caliber of marketing that big companies have. The question is, how do you bring it back? How do you bring it to them and how to do it? So I started asking people that I know, colleagues, business owners, friends, people that I met in networking events. And I said, tell me, what do you do for your marketing? And very often the answer was something along the lines of, I know what I need to do, but I can't do it because it's only me and my wife running the company. So we will do some marketing when we have time, but we're not doing it consistently. And I'm not going to hire a full-time marketing person or a whole marketing department, because traditionally the way you run marketing is you have one person who's a lead, and then you hire 3, 4, 5, depending on what you can afford, people to help them. And the help would be maybe somebody does the copywriting, a graphic artist, a social media person, like you mentioned, and other functions within. But these are kind of the basics. And I knew it can be done differently. So I said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, what I want to do is hire somebody like you and 3 other people and run the company, but I can't afford it, or I can't justify it. My budget doesn't make sense to do that. And I started asking people, what if you could rent me? And they would go, what?
Rent a person?
Yeah. I said, yeah. I promise to bring my entire brain, but I will work with you only a certain number of hours per week or per month and run your marketing. And people go, wow, you can do that? I didn't know we can do that. I said, yes. At that time, the term fractional CMO, or fractional in general for professionals, was not very common. It existed, but very few people knew of it. I was one of the first ones. I didn't coin it, but I was one of the first ones to actually use that term. And people liked it.
It paints a perfect picture. Like, you totally understand what that means. For a fraction of the price, a fraction of the time, you're getting a full CMO.
Right. So I use my time and my teams to serve multiple clients. And that's how it happened. Your second question was about red.
Yeah, I'm always so curious on the use of colors and why people choose certain colors.
Yes, so like a true marketing person, of course, I tested it, but I had preconceived notions from, maybe not preconceived, but based on experience. Red is a strong color. Red evokes emotions and excitement. And we find it working well for people. It makes you stand up, but still with white background and such, still clean.
Very clean, very corporate feeling. I also feel with red. So one of my favorite books I loved reading when I was in college was If It's Purple, Someone's Gonna Die. It was using the psychology of color when building out scenes.
Yeah.
And red, although some people might think like, oh, red, caution, it's also very independent. Red is a very independent color. So if you have like a strong woman, female character, they might have red hair because it's a strong independence. And so it's like you are giving people their independence to run their company, but still have that, support.
But a word of caution.
Caution.
It's true, but it's not true for everything. For an example, what color is your laundry detergent liquid?
Mine is green.
Okay.
Yes.
It's green. It's blue. It's clear.
Yeah.
Never red.
No, never red. No, that's true.
You think why? Well, marketing tests have shown that if you have it red when it comes to liquids and cleaning stuff, it's not considered clean.
Oh.
perhaps because of blood. So they're avoiding. So yes, we can say this color means this and this color means that, but it depends on the application, the product, the service.
Nothing can be generalized completely. Yeah. That is true. In any scenario, nothing can be fully generalized. That is true. Yeah. That is true. So in the bio, you said that you were a captain in the Israeli military army. That is amazing. Israeli military intelligence, apologies.
Yes.
So what was it like making the ranks to captain? Because I'm aware of, every Israeli needs to spend 1 year, correct? 1 year in the military? No?
No. Men 3 years.
Men 3 years. Okay.
Females 2 years.
Okay.
It changed over the years, a couple of months more or less, but it's around that time. Yeah. So when you serve in the Israeli military, as a man, you serve for 3 years. If you are chosen and you accept to become an officer, you have to serve a few more years beyond that in order to enjoy that privilege. So,
but that's amazing because it just shows the character that you are of a leader. You could have just coasted and done your job for the 3 years, but what made you feel compelled to take it that step further into leadership?
I think it's the family I grew up in. That was instilled in me by my dad, by my family. This is what you do. You don't do just one thing. You take it to the top. You take it to the max. Same goes with my education. I had my bachelor's. I said, okay, well, I'll do the MBA. After I did the MBA, a few years went by. I said, well, there's still something out there that I can get, and that's what I did.
That's excellent. And I'm sure you bring a lot of that energy to all of your clients. So tell me, you mentioned an attorney. Who are good industries for you to work with?
So over the years, you kind of look back at what you've done and what you like to do and the people you enjoy working with. And the academic type answer to this is any company that realizes somehow that doing marketing better and not doing random acts of marketing, but doing marketing under a strategy that aligns with the business goals and strategy, when they realize that would help them, they're a good client. Okay, so that's the academic sterile type answer. In reality, I enjoy very much working with manufacturers. I enjoy working with technology company or technology-reliant companies. What do I mean by that is not necessarily companies that create technology out of nothing, but they take technology and utilize it to do things that are very important to the customers. Case in point is one of our clients that you know. And they make automation for doors and windows. They make motors and controls for the motors. So they're not, people don't think of them as a technology company necessarily, but they do utilize great technology, the latest and greatest of technology to make these automation systems, from voice activation to motion detection to all kinds of things that they do to make it great. So I enjoy working with those companies. Over the years, we kind of specialize more in B2B clients. Again, that's what I enjoy doing more, and I like to do the things that I like and not the things that I don't like.
Hey, well, especially when you're a business owner, that's exactly the point.
There are exceptions to the rule, of course, every now and then. But even our attorney that you mentioned, you said attorney, he's a business attorney, that firm is. So
that's a good friend to have too.
So when businesses serve other businesses, this is where we thrive. This is what I enjoy doing and dealing with.
Excellent. You mentioned that you have a team. So tell me, for those who are perhaps growing their business, what are some advice that you would have to other fellow business owners who want to grow a team?
Hire the best people. Of course. Over the years, working in corporate America, I also hired and fired some people. So to me, what's important is Brain power, not skills. Not that skills are not important, but you can teach someone how to do something if they have the brains to do that. You can hire someone with skills. They're not perhaps as smart or brilliant as you need them to be, and that's not going to work. So that's one guideline that I have. The other one is compatibility, and it goes both ways. You want to work with people that you feel comfortable with, you enjoy talking to, and you respect, but they have to be compatible with the people that you serve. So if you're in a B2B situation like me, you have to have employees, you have to have team members that would work well and be accepted well with the type of clientele that you work with. If in retail, same thing. You don't want to have somebody rude and impatient serving.
Right. It has to match
customers.
The brand. Yeah.
So to me, these are the top things: the brain power for the job, and compatibility.
I would agree. And yeah, I've been finding myself more so too, wanting to hire passion over fully knowledgeable skill set. Because if they have the passion to learn, I could teach them the nuances on, a particular camera or the nuances on an editing software. But yeah, they could be the best editor in the world if there's no passion. It's hard for them to stay hungry and eager to keep doing the next project and the next project.
Yeah. And again, with your example, they may be the best camera operating person in the world, but they're not compatible with you. The personalities don't match. They're having an attitude. We've all seen these people.
Yes.
I don't want to work with people like this if I don't have to.
Right, agreed. I definitely love finding people who think differently than me and have been in different scenarios, because then it just gives us more brain power, I feel, of how to look at anything.
Yeah, that may be another criteria that I forgot to mention, that I don't like people that always say yes. Oh yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, this is a great idea. No, to challenge me.
Right.
So many times when I talk to my team members, I ask for their opinion about something. I said, I'm not going to tell you what I think. Tell me what you think. No, well, how do you? No, I don't want to tell you how I feel about this. You tell me, because I really want to hear it. Or sometimes I ask, tell me why I'm wrong.
I like that one.
Tell me why this is not. What do you see in here that's not good?
Okay.
And tell me. So, you want to be surrounded with people that contribute, not necessarily agree with you and become worshipers. We've all seen business leaders that surround themselves by people who just worship them. It's not good. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for the business, and not healthy for those the business serves.
Right. I completely agree. And you need to have that authentic candor. One of my favorite books I've read is Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull. He was the creator of Pixar, which basically talks about that, about building a team, and that you need to come in. They'd have what's called Notes Day, where you'd go into a different department and basically complain about everything that department's doing that makes it difficult on your department. Yeah. And just having that honest dialogue and candor, not to just complain to them, but to say like, hey, you're hurting me here because of this. And just to try to have that honest dialogue to then make them all better. Yeah.
Companies that can afford it sometimes have two teams doing the same thing for that very reason.
Interesting.
Sometimes they don't know they're working on the same thing, just completely separate, to see what comes to the top. And then you take the best of the best. And
I never thought of an A/B test in terms of personnel.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, and there are companies that have teams a team that builds something and a team that tries to break it. Okay. So there are companies that specialize only in breaking. So one of my past clients, his company was related to cybersecurity, and their job was to break things. And companies would hire them. Break into my network.
Wow. That is...
Sometimes physically, sometimes digitally. But break in. Show me why it's not good. Where are the vulnerabilities? Where are the openings?
Wow. It just, things like that just shows that there's a niche for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
You enjoy hacking things? use it productively.
Exactly. That guy who was leading that company he called himself an ethical hacker.
Yeah.
So he would go and break things for companies and come back and show them.
Wow.
Yeah. We've done this with marketing too. So years ago, I had a marketing research company. And part of what we did, part of one type of research we did was kind of like this, doing mystery shopper, if you will, but kind of aggressive mystery shopper, just to see how the company handles situations like this. To this day, part of our onboarding process with new clients is testing their customer service capabilities. All kinds of things that we do, pretending to be a customer.
Okay.
And just saying, not to catch anybody. It's to go back to the client and say, look, this works well, this can be better, and this is how.
Okay.
This does not work at all.
So you go through the customer journey to be able to let them know, as a customer, there were pitfalls here, or there were, opportunities to enhance here, or this is great. That's excellent.
And most clients love it.
Yeah.
They could. I'll give you an example, a classic example, and it happens to different degrees with different clients. Aerospace company, big. They have all the personnel they need, everything they could want, they have. They came up with this great idea, and I'm not saying this facetiously, it's a great idea. After 5 o'clock in the afternoon, calls that come through the main line would go to the warehouse because there's always somebody there. So there's a human touch. Somebody calls and has a question. The person at the warehouse can either answer it or say, I'm in the warehouse, it's after hours, I will make sure that so-and-so will get back to you tomorrow. Great plan.
Yeah.
So part of our standard testing during the onboarding process was to call and see how calls are being handled during business hours, after hours, weekends, and so on. So we called after hours. And it took us to a voicemail. We left a message. Waited a couple of days, have heard nothing. So when we submitted our report, we indicated, look, the after hours went to so-and-so's voicemail, but that person never called us back. So they started investigating. It took them a few days. It was directed to a voicemail of a person who left the company 3 years prior.
Oh my goodness.
So, but they didn't know.
Yeah.
And how would they know?
How would they have known unless they did the journey? Yeah.
And think about it. What business owner calls his or her business after hours to see if everything is working well?
That's a great tip.
So that's what we do. And we do this with just about every client as part of the onboarding to find areas of improvement. All they had to do is just change where the call is being routed to.
Yeah.
And then we do that about once a year, every 6 months, once a year, kind of improving.
That fix probably took, 5 minutes?
Yeah. Yeah. And other things that we find while doing this is, press 1 for this, 2 for that. A lot of these things either don't work or not updated. So
going to an old employee that's, on their 3rd job by now. No, that's Going through your own customer journey is such a great way to
Nobody
see
does it.
how the process really is.
I'm telling you, nobody does it.
I think having someone like yourself, a third-party person, do it is so valuable because I could see myself or a team member go through a customer journey, but they kind of know, so you kind of go into that feeling of knowing versus someone who's completely in the unknown going through the journey. You're going to have a completely different experience.
Absolutely. So, like I said, it's part of what we do. And most business owners, managers really like it. They say, oh, goodness, I didn't know that.
And who would have thought, too, that when we're thinking about fractional chief marketing officer marketing, I don't know if most people think, that customer journey, that's actually still part of the whole marketing sequence. It's not, we're not done.
We try to touch every aspect of marketing.
Yeah.
And because of the fractional aspect of it, we don't do everything day one. We don't do everything the first month. We lay out a plan after we engage with the client. We decide on what the strategy should be and what we should pay attention to mostly. We put a plan. And typically it's a 12-month plan to start that says, this is what we're going to do first month, second month, third month. And we put it all in there and we handle it fractionally over time.
And then do you just have KPIs set for then to progress?
Everything that can be measured is measured. There are a lot of things that are very hard to measure. And I know there are books and I know there are experts out there that say, oh, you can measure this, you can measure that. You can. Can I give an example?
Yes, of course.
All right. So it's called marketing attribution. What do you attribute a result to? What marketing activities you can attribute this result? It's very complex. So yes, people with formulas and all of that, and I have thick books about marketing metrics and all of that. But let's take one example. You went to a trade show, you talked to someone, and 2 months later they bought from you.
Right.
All right. For some people, it's a trade show. We went to the trade show and they bought from us. Okay, good. You need to justify the expense related to exhibiting at a trade show. But what if this particular person has been on your email list for the past 5 years, getting newsletters and emails? What if this person also follows you on social media? What if that person also received phone calls from your salesperson? What if after the trade show, you followed up a few times? What if you offered a special to everybody who showed up to the trade show, registered their trade show, saw your email, 25% off? What do you attribute this to?
And what if the trade show gave them an awesome pen that they always use every day now? All those little pieces.
So you can say, well, it's 5% this and 7% that. So what I'm trying to, you asked about KPIs. Yeah, we do have KPIs. We do measure, but there's so many things happening in marketing. I just mentioned some, but what about we have websites, we have
they watched
podcasts.
A video, they listened to podcasts. You were a guest on another podcast that they also watched. All the brand recognitions.
There are theories and there are methodologies to do this attributions. Okay, well, if it's more than 2 months, then you don't count that. But in reality, but we try. We do have KPIs for everything, especially for the end results. How many new customers have you gotten? What the sales is like? How many followers you have here or there, and how many people open?
I'm sure when you do a product launch, it might be easy to see. Okay, how did that product launch go? Sales.
So we try to have numbers. And we always go back and we say, look, this month compared to previous month, that's what happened. But it is important. It is important to have KPIs because if you operate without specific objectives, you don't know where you're going. You can't tell whether you're doing better or not.
But you are right, though, that we have to look at it just, it's not a definite because there's other attribution. Even if this month wasn't as good as last month, what happened in the world? What was going on that could have potentially changed the market for a month?
Great point. Practically everybody in the B2B business world experienced some reduction in social media activity or at least reduction in the rate of growth in social media. So we saw it in one client, then we looked at another client. Another client said, maybe it's us. So I talked to a few friends and colleagues that are in the same business. And I said, what's going on? Everybody. So we had a couple of things happening. The most important one was election cycle. In my opinion, these recent presidential elections suck the oxygen out of just about everything. So I'm not saying people did not go on social media. They did, but they probably looked more of political things and social things and less business thing. So we had that. We also had a very prominent head of one of the most popular social media platforms who identified himself with one political. That created, whether you support him or not, that created some some issues for some people anyway, and they avoided that or dropped out
Flocked
of the
over to Blue Sky or,
So absolutely. What's happening in the environment
matters.
that influence it. Years ago, I worked for was the beginning of the PC revolution. I was working for a small chain of computer type stores in upstate New York, and was trying to do attribution for our sales. Do a big sale this weekend, come to the store. Well, after you look at the numbers, you plug them all in, and you compare one over the other. Oh, actually, it snowed last weekend, so people didn't come. But another time, it snowed on Friday, and Saturday was sunny. Everybody wants to get out, so they did come. So what I'm trying to say is,
I'm grateful we don't have to deal with that here in Arizona.
Yes, right. So there are many variables that most of them we have no control over. But there are many variables, and you have to take that to account. So when you do attribution, okay, how many of them are you going to account for?
Right.
Run a regression analysis. That's what I did. Ran a regression analysis. It was just like too involved in some cases to really make sense of it.
Makes sense. Yeah. So you just got to really look at the situation and control what you can control, and don't worry about everything else. So I shared one book that I really enjoy. What's a tale that you've maybe read that you've enjoyed, whether it's for business growth or just personally, you just enjoy it?
Well, I still go back to a book that's been out there for many years, to the principles of it. Good to Great.
Good to Great. Okay, I haven't done that one.
Yeah. It's kind of a classic in the business management world. It's not new at all. It's been out, I read it probably 10 years ago. No, more, probably 15 years ago. There's some principles there that are good. You talked about, or you asked about the hiring people and so on. It talks a lot about that. Okay. I really like how they are looking at things like hiring and so on. Some of the principles are get the right people on the bus, then get them on the right seat of the bus. So find the right people, then find what they really good at. Yeah. And another one that's kind of sad, but it's true. Always, I think they say they're always fire the bottom 10% or 20% of your performers. Okay. Always replace them. Wow. Some of these principles, I think, are still great.
Okay, yeah. Well, I've also heard the phrase, hire slowly, fire fast.
Yes.
And so I think that's similar there, where you do need to have maybe that turnover, just that realization that if someone's just not a fit, that, it's not a personal decision, it's a business decision. And, it can be hard to fire sometimes, but, it's what you got to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And companies that follow this get the right people on the bus, then the right seat, do the slow hiring. There are companies like this that hire people they like, they think they're smart, they think they're good. They bring them in or stay in touch with them for years until the right time comes, and then they bring them in. So it makes a lot of sense. Oh, wow. Very nice.
How about movies? Do you have a favorite movie or TV show series that you like?
Yes. I do. I don't go to the movies much anymore because everything,
so expensive. It's so crazy.
No, but you can.
And you can watch it at home. I know.
Yeah, you can stream it.
And I know we have like a 150-foot projector at home, so it's like got a movie theater.
I'd rather sit at home, have a cigar in my hand, and watch a movie. When I watch movies, I watch them for the thrill, for the escape from life. So I like action movies. I like very funny movies. Any of the good top tier action movies, I enjoy watching.
So are you a Marvel man then?
Not so much that kind.
Okay, so not so much there. Okay.
But Mission Impossible, of course, I like those. One of my favorite movies, Total Recall.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I like that. I like the game they play with your head.
I see that.
Some of the more classic ones that I like is the Unusual Suspects.
Yes.
Again, the same kind of thing. They kind of lead you in one way, and then you find out that it's completely different. So I enjoy those.
Excellent. Those are good ones.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, my fantasy football league, we actually called ourselves the Usual Suspects.
That's cool. That's great.
That's excellent. So if you were to ever write a book, what do you think the title of that tale would be?
Wow. That's a great question. Stop the nonsense. I feel that a lot of times, and I don't want it to sound political, but we do political movements are very visible nowadays, so we hear that. But there's a lot of things that people talk about and want to make right and want to make sound good. Mm-hmm. But in reality, it doesn't always translate. When you have to run a business, when you have to raise a family, when you have to take care of your kids, you need to get to the tough decisions, not necessarily be a nice person. And if you talk to my clients, I will tell you that. And I know that because sometimes when I get a new client, they ask for a reference. They want to talk to them. And they say, what they told me is that Duke will tell you what he feels about your idea and what you're about to do. And we appreciate it. So, yeah, I tell my clients if they come up with something or they want to do something that will not work well for them, I will tell them. I will still do whatever they want, but I will tell them. As long as it's ethical and legal, I will do it. But I think we all have to be a little bit more candid.
I love that. That's so important. That's why they trust you as a professional. Because if you were just a yes man, then they're not going to get any value.
I had one client, I have to say, over the years, who did not like hearing from us about the things that they should do better or differently. And that relationship didn't last very long.
Well, they apparently weren't ready to actually get sound marketing advice.
I don't know if they'll ever be ready. Ready assumes that at one point they will. I think it was just a personality thing.
Yeah. Well, I personally prefer that. I don't like sugarcoating anything. Perhaps also it's a little bit of how you're raised. You know, I know you spent some time in New York. I was originally born in upstate New York and have a mom from Yonkers. So, you know, maybe it's a little bit on style, but I think it's very important just to be clear. And even Brene Brown says being clear is kind. If we sugarcoat or aren't honest, then we might let things slide. If you don't like your Christmas gift, tell your spouse, you know.
Yeah. You're not doing anybody favors by sugarcoating or telling them things that are not true. And I've always believed that. I'm very, very candid with people. I try not to be rude, but I think honesty pays eventually.
It does. I personally think it does. And as you mentioned, personality styles. If they can't take true criticism, then maybe it's just not a good fit, and that's okay. And then they can maybe find someone who does, but I don't know if they would get the same amount of success if they were to work with someone like that versus yourself.
and you know, people ask me that. So wow, he or she is very successful. Even good for them. Yeah. I don't begrudge them, but that's not for me. And when I choose clients, as long as we're touching on this, like I said before, if they do something unethical or illegal, done. I'm done. I try to find out about this during the discovery stage before we engage with them, and that's usually when things come up. But there were one or two times where it took a couple of months, and then maybe even more. And said, nope, that's not me. We don't do that. We don't lie. We don't break the law. We don't take advantage of people.
And so obviously you had the confidence to be able to fire, but for those who maybe are just starting a business, firing a client can be really scary because you're literally saying, I don't want your money anymore, but morals make a difference. But for someone who maybe are having struggles knowing, okay, I have a client I should really fire, what would be your advice to that business owner?
It's a matter of degree. It's not black and white. There are things we talked about unethical. The ethical line is you move it, you place it where you think it is. So at the beginning, me too. When I started my business, there were some things that I wouldn't say unethical, but made me feel icky. And I would do them. Nowadays, I don't need to, and
Right.
I wouldn't. So draw the line. My suggestion. It's okay. These are things I'm willing to do. These are things that I'm not willing to do, and stay true to your principle. Lose a client. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay. I know it's easy for me to sit here when somebody has to pay their mortgage and say that, but over time, it's better.
It is. And you'll get more clients. You know, I know the first few times too of firing clients, it does feel weird because you're just like, I know for a fact I'm saying no to your money, but money, you can get money back. But yeah, like I remember one client the first year was very much sexually harassing. And I was like, I can't deal with that. You know, you can ignore a little and then you're like, okay, I'm done. We are not continuing.
Yeah, that's why I'm talking about the degree. So
yeah,
this is the degree, but you have to know where your line is.
Yep.
And when it comes to legal, illegal, it's a little bit clearer.
Exactly. But when the, morals are just how you want to, and so you lay your line. And then if they cross that line, you need to have the confidence to say you crossed the line, and we discussed where that line is. So yeah, definitely. Any other advice that you would have as we kind of come to a close of like, what's one thing, whether it's go through your own customer journey, what would be one piece of marketing advice you would give to business owners?
Can it be two?
Oh, it can be two. I would love that. Thank you.
First of all, generally speaking, don't ignore marketing. Marketing is important. Even if you think you cannot afford time, people, money, do marketing, there are things that you can do. Talk to someone who would be willing to help you. And I'm one like this. I've talked to many people that cannot afford to pay for marketing yet, but talk to them. So that's one. But the two most important things within marketing, one is your value proposition and positioning statement. By that I mean, put it on paper first. Get a good statement that says who you are, what you do, how you do it, whom do you serve, and why I should trust you. Those 5 elements have to be there. Who you are, what you do, how you do, whom do you serve, and why we should trust you. Work on it. We work with our clients, every new client. This is what even if they've been in business for 20 years, we work on this because things change and you have to update it. The second most important thing is knowing your audience, knowing your target market. If you're saying to yourself, if I ask you who's your customer, and you say anybody,
yes,
and you don't know your market, you cannot sell to everybody. So narrow this down, narrow it. Whom do you want to serve? Whom do you work with best? And then within that group, find segments. Sometimes there are 2, 3, 6 segments. Whom do you serve within that? Who are these people? What are they like? What's their education, gender, demographics, and firmographics?
Psychographics,
Yeah. So all of these things about your audience. So I would say at the very least, if you want your business to be successful, be able to talk about yourself, mentioning those 5 things that I mentioned before, and know whom you're talking to as well. Know them very well. Make sure you're not just selling it, you're selling to a particular group or a subgroup and individuals within.
Excellent. And one thing you said is write it down. I know I always say that too. It's not real unless it's written down.
It has to be written down because that statement that I mentioned with the 5 components should be 200 words plus or minus.
Okay, that's not that much.
Yeah, it's half a page.
Yeah.
Maybe 400 words. We've done those too when it's a more complex situation. And then from that, extract your elevator pitch. But have that as a base. Have that as your core document, core statement. Everything else can be built on top of that.
Excellent. So create your core capabilities statement, know your target audience intimately, I feel.
Yes, yeah.
And go through your own customer journey. You'll be amazed at some of the pitfalls you might see and opportunities for growth. I know when I was doing a Thunderbird business school course, they talked about blueprinting. So blueprinting your business and seeing those particular areas. But I think just someone going through the process is so much better. So Yeah, thank you so much for all this information.
My pleasure.
Definitely lots that I think I'm going to even look in and have someone go through our customer journey here soon. And so thank you, Duke. Everyone, take a look at all the things that Duke could do for you. You can see a link to his website here. And thank you so much again for just being a wonderful, trusted marketing person here in the Valley.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching Tales with Taylor. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the Financial Potion YouTube channel to never miss an episode.